Okay. I want to talk to you about pleasure and breath work. Most time you hear me talking about trauma and pain and breath work because breath work is an amazing tool, an amazing practice to release pain and to release trauma. But I want to talk to you about pleasure because pleasure is in there also. And I want to give you a few details and information about pleasure and breath so you actually know how pleasure plays into healing and breath plays well with all of it. So first of all, with breath and sound, when the deeper we breathe and the deeper we go into sound, especially when it's resonating through our whole entire core, we have the vagus nerve that goes up the front of the body. Most people know about the kundalini in the back, but the vagus nerve goes up the front, and it's all about pleasure. And the more we sound and the more we breathe, the more that can open and flow and brings pleasure to our bodies, which is awesome. So that is one aspect of how breath is really bringing pleasure into our bodies. But sometimes in this nervous system, this vagus nerve, there's little blocks and there's little beliefs in there, and that when we're breathing into them, then they get shaken loose and they're freed up. Now, the thing is with pleasure is once those pains, those traumas start shaking loose and releasing, what's fascinating is, from what I've experienced with my students and my clients, and even in part of my own healing journey, is that most people have some kind of guilt or shame or shyness or embarrassment around pleasure. And it's like, I can't have too much. Wait, I have to give you pleasure, or I have to avoid this pleasure and go over there. And it's like, wait. And so then there's that to work with and to breathe into and to support and to see, like, hey, how can I release these old beliefs, these beliefs that no longer serve us anymore? Like, can we expand our pleasure threshold? Can we expand it and grow it? Because there's a very fine line between pleasure and pain. Like, have you ever been like crying so hard and then all of a sudden you're laughing? Because you get an aha of of something, or you just start laughing because you're crying so hard that you're like, oh my gosh. And it's like, it's a relief, it's a release, and it's like so beautiful. And so sometimes then you feel pleasure in the pain, and it's like so incredible. I think that's also the reason why, well, people are born this way, but it's just like BDSM, and I like to call it kink, because a lot of people, BDSM, it's like can be painful, but there's some parts of it is so beautiful. And if you know me, my background is tantra and sexuality, so that's why I bring this up. There's pleasure in being confined. There's pleasure in getting to that threshold where it's almost painful, or just over the threshold of painful that is pleasurable. And it's really interesting with the breath to breathe into the pleasure and see where the pain shows up, or breathe into the pain so the pleasure shows up. It's kind of like we're all wrapped in this cocoon. We're still waiting to be a butterfly, and then we just blossom open into our pleasure, and then we're flying, and then where the wind blows us and stuff like that. And so those are ways of supporting us to heal even in our pleasure journey. And so I just wanted to bring this up and talk about how pleasure and breath work together, as well as how pleasure can bring up other stuff to heal. And so it's not all just black or white of pleasure, trauma, pain. It's it all works together. Sometimes we're in our pain body, and that brings up laughter and joy and bliss and pleasure. Some people have so much, especially women or people in general that have had sexual abuse, they have guilt over having too much pleasure. And so when we can breathe into our whole entire bodies and breathe that in, let it heal and let it transform so we can expand our joy in our everyday life. It's like so awesome. So anyway, I'm Heather Ray Dawn. I'm a breathwork and relationship and intimacy coach and facilitator. And I work with women in empowerment and pleasure. So look forward to supporting you in any way. Big hugs.